If you got few or no not-cry characters and don't know how to split your teams in this Stygian Onslaught, relax and squat, I'm here to help. Today I'm going to teach you how to defeat all 3 bosses of the Stygian Onslaught of version 6.3. I have Name of Gas, and let's get to the video. Hi, for those who don't know me, my name is Helio, but you can call me Gas. I'm proud to say that for the first time this video is being dubbed in more than one audio track. So, if you feel more comfortable listening to this video in Portuguese instead of English, you can switch the audio track down below. That being said, let's talk about the Stygian Onslaught. The Stygian Onslaught of this patch was one of the most challenging in my opinion, because I had very few alternatives that I could use to clear it. Even though I have strong and well-built characters, the characters that are considered alternatives for this one, I either don't have or don't know how to play with, like Skirk for example. That's why I'm going to explain the strategies even without having those characters, so you can clear it with the character you prefer, even if you didn't get a not-cry character. I managed to clear it with at least 3 different teams for each boss, so there's some variety possible. The first boss is the Lord of Unknown Depths. It's a new not-cry boss and its mechanic is quite easy to understand. At a certain point in the combat, which in difficulty 5 or 6 is right when the combat starts, it will enter defense mode and gain kind of a shield while summoning 4 little wolves. When its shield is broken, it takes 20% of its max HP as true damage and all its resistances are reduced. You can break this shield in 2 ways, dealing direct damage to the boss or by killing the summoned wolves. Its shield takes 3 times more damage from lunar reactions, while their little wolves don't have any shield, so you can deal direct damage to them. When each wolf dies, it removes 25% of the boss shield bar. If you got any not-cry character, this boss is the best one for you to use that character on. Characters like Flint, Inefa, Nefer, Lauma, or even Columbina are great here. After all, it takes 3 times more damage from lunar reactions to its shield, so you don't need to worry about killing the little wolves, you can simply focus on the boss. But if you didn't get any not-cry character, don't worry, you can group these little wolves and deal a lot of damage to them. As soon as you kill all of them, the boss shield bar will be destroyed. You can also deal direct damage to the boss at the same time, so you only need to kill 3 or 2 wolves instead of all of them. Characters that deal a lot of damage, especially if they can handle all 4 wolves at the same time, are very good here. The best option for those who don't have a not-cry character is Mavuika, and I'll be honest, I couldn't test with many other characters because Shaska is single target and I didn't build Marvaressa, so I don't have many other characters to test here. The teams I managed to clear easily with were using Nefer, Mavuika, and Flints, but one of my friends also managed to clear it using Skirk. The second boss is the Veteran Blazing Shock Troop, or, as I like to call it, Raskolnikov, because that's the local legend's name. Rasconikov's mechanic is that after a certain time, or immediately when entered in combat, he will generate a 3-layer shield around him. This shield generates a ward that you can see below his HP bar. This ward takes any kind of damage and regenerates health every second. While the shield is active, our electrocharged or lunar-charged damage he takes is increased. In addition, whenever he takes one of these 2 reactions, his regeneration will become much slower. When each shield layer breaks, he will generate 6 electroparticles and takes 6% of his max HP. As soon as the last layer is broken, he becomes stunned for 13 seconds, all his resistances are reduced, and even after he recovers, his electro resistance remain reduced. You have 30 seconds to break the shield, and if you don't, he will start summoning lightning bolts one after another until all your characters die. Even though this boss is an absolute propaganda for Inefa, Columbina, or Flints, you don't necessarily need to use these characters. Actually, you don't need to use electro characters at all. This boss is the most brute forcible boss of this patch. So if you have a character that uses high DPS, you can use them against Raskolnikov. You can also bring a Hydro or Electro main DPS with a Hydro or Electro sub DPS, depending on which character you want to use. The thing is, you need to bring a Hydro and an Electro character to be able to do it more easily. After all, his shield will keep regenerating unless you cause Electro charged or Luna charged damage. In one of my attempts, I brought Varessa as a DPS and Farina as a sub DPS. This boss normally can't take any crowd control, but notice that I said normally. Right before he enters his shield phase, he becomes susceptible to crowd control. And if he can take crowd control, that means... As I said, this boss has a small window where you can use crowd control on him. And because of that, you can constantly cause crowd control on him to the point where he can't stand up again. Using this strategy, you can, once more, trap him in geox structures, making him take a percentage of his max HP as true damage. If you want to use this strategy, here's the Jin exploit 101. Wait for the yellow particles of his weapon to disappear before using Jin's elemental skill. It's usually when the time marks between 15H and 157. Right after using Jin's elemental skill, you will do a charged attack, swap to Traveler, and use Traveler's elemental skill. This must be done without moving the character because it's an automatic positioning. After that, you take 2 steps back with Jin, do a charged attack again, swap to Chignari, use his elemental skill, swap to Zhongli, place a pillar, and swap back to Jin. When you swap back to Jin, you need to do an upward charged elemental skill very quickly and run backwards so your hitbox doesn't collide with Raskolnikov's hitbox. If you did it right, he will be trapped between the pillar and the Traveler's Rock, and you can use Zhongli's elemental burst to keep him trapped for a few more seconds. Zhongli's burst doesn't have enough time to keep him trapped for the entire duration. So, you can either use Jin's elemental skill again to knock him to the ground and make him finish taking all the ticks, or you can keep crowd controlling Raskolnikov to prevent him from entering the defense stand and try the exploit again. Since the positioning is done using only abilities and charged attacks, you don't need to worry too much about the perfect alignment. The third boss is the Emperor of Fire and Iron, and he already starts the battle with a fire shield, which are his horns. This shield can only be broken by elemental applications, with Hydro being the most effective. So, it is basically necessary that you bring Hydro characters to this fight. In difficulties 5 and 6, this boss enters a special phase where he summons 3 smaller crabs. Each little crab also has a pyro shield, but with less durability than the main big crab. The boss becomes stunned as soon as his shield breaks, losing a lot of his resistances. The different mechanic of this boss is that these little crabs behave similar to the ducklings of Knuckle Duckle or the heads of the Mexican cactus. When the shield of these little crabs is broken, they throw themselves at the main crab, reduce his shield, deal true damage equivalent to 60% of the hydro damage they received, plus 10% of the damage from any other element. The damage from the kamikaze attack cannot exceed 15% of the boss' max HP. At this point, it's no secret that this boss is a propaganda for Neuvillette, but you don't need to use Neuvillette at all. You can use characters that have strong hydro application combined with characters that have strong hydro damage. Neuvillette by himself obviously already has both, but you can use a combination like Mona and Moalani. Mona has better application than Moalani and increased vaporized damage, while Moalani has a huge raw damage, stacking as much damage as possible on the little crabs and making them collide with the big crab. When the boss's shield is broken, he takes 10% of his max HP as true damage, and all his resistances are reduced. The best option here is to use Hydro DPS, but since this game only has 2 good Hydro DPSs, there is not much way to escape from them. Obviously, the best result I had was using Neuvillette, but I also managed to clear it using Shaska with Hydro Soup DPS and Moalani with this Mona strategy. Anyway, that's what's today's video. If you watched this video with English translation, comment down below if my pronunciation or accent is preventing you from understanding what I'm saying. But if in doubt, all my videos have subtitles. I was going to make a Colombina guide, but I missed the time and Colombina is almost leaving the banner. So there is no reason for me to make a Colombina guide right now. But if I get Zebai, I plan to make a video for her. If you manage to clear it using different strategies from the ones I used here, you can leave it in the comments to help anyone who haven't been able to clear it yet. I promise I'll answer all the comments, or at least all the ones I read. A big hug from your favorite Noblegas, and see you next time.